For health, safety and environment movie review, our group decided to choose a story based on true events, Bhopal, titled The Prayer for Rain. I'm Harith bin Aimiros will introduce briefly about this movie. The disaster located in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. The incident happened on the night of 2nd to 3rd December 1984 at Union Carbide India Limited, as well as known as UCIL. Majority of the factory owned by Union Carbide Corporation, with the chairman Warren Anderson. The factory built in 1969 to produce methyl isocyanate (MIC), but as the time progressed, slums were built surrounding the factory in the small city of Bhopal. In the early 1980s, the demand of the pesticide declined, but the production continued regardless, resulting in excess amount of unused MIC. At the time, India experiencing drought, preventing the local to continue their agriculture activities, hence there are no income for them. After this disaster, over 500,000 exposed to the MIC gas and estimated around 8,000 to 12,000 victims killed. Throughout the movie, there are several important characters. First, Dilip. The movie invites us in the point of view of the main character Dilip as a struggling slum resident that formerly working as a rickshaw puller get the opportunity to work at the Union Carbide. Second, Warren Anderson, Union Carbide chairman. Third, Mr. Chowdhury, the plant manager. Fourth, Mr. Roy, the safety engineer that share his concern to Dilip. 5. The story then progresses when Rakesh, the first victim of cyanide poisoning and also employee of Union Carbide. And lastly, Dr. Chandra, the head doctor in Bhopal, that are crucial.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is AQIL bin ADLAN and I'll be your first speaker in the subtopic Accidents and Incidents involving Bhopal, a prayer for rain. Before we get into the incidents and accidents, let's talk about the domino effect. This effect was developed by Herbert W. Heinrich. It is essentially factors in the sequence of events leading up to an accident. For the first one is ancestral and social environment, which is pressure on Union Carbide to make money. Second, the fault of a person, improper selection of staff and no training courses by the plant manager to save money and time. And then the effect goes bigger, which is unsafe act and condition. Cost-cutting procedures and unclean working environment inside the plant. And then finally leads to an accident where SOP was not followed, causing the MIC gas leak. And lastly, injury, the death of thousands in Bhopal due to cyanide poisoning. Now let's move on to incident number 1, the development of the UC plant itself. UCIL developed a hazardous pesticide manufacturing plant in the middle of the slums in Bhopal. However, 10 years prior, during the planning and development of the plant itself, the surrounding of the proposed plant site was empty. Now this situation happened because due to India's unemployment rates, many people were left jobless, which led them to live in self-made slums. Second cause is the government itself was informed of the development of the plant, but they did not take action when Bhopal slums were built. The consequences itself, people are exposed to pollution from the plant. How do you prevent this? Government should not allow slums close to the plant. And secondly, UCIL should have backed away as soon as possible. Now moving on to the regulations which are breached in Incident 1. The first regulations involve the use and standard of exposure of chemicals hazardous to health, Regulations 2000, OSH. Regulation 10, which says if there are any changes in the environment, you should do a review assessment. The other regulation is Regulation 29, warning signs. Warning signs should be provided for everybody to ensure that they know of chemical hazards in the area. Another regulation which was breached is OSH, Control of Industrial Major Accidents Hazards, Regulations 1996, which is Regulation 22, information to the public. Throughout the movie, UC has failed to provide information of any kind about the plant activities to the public. Now let's move on to the second incident, which is unqualified employees and unsafe working conditions. The selection of new employees was based on a simple test made by the incompetent plant manager, which led to the shortage of qualified and reliable persons on site. The cause: incompetent manager. The test was unrelated to actual work. Dust from materials surrounds the working area. No PPE provided for newer workers or daily basis workers. And the fifth and last is bad ergonomics due to the absence of suitable machinery or equipment to handle heavier loads. The consequences: workers' health are negatively affected. Second, dirty work environment which can risk dust explosion. Third, maintenance SOP not done properly which led to Accident 1 and Incident 3. How to prevent this? Workers should be provided proper training and knowledge before working in the specified task to reduce mishandling. Second, plant officials or managers should provide proper PPE to all employees on site. Third, the material should be kept in a sealed container while during transportation. Fourth, to provide proper machinery or equipment to transport heavier loads to avoid bad ergonomics. Moving on to the regulations breached in Incident 2 is OSH, Safety and Health Officer Regulations 1997. The duties of an employer. Regulation 15, facilities, which says companies should provide adequate facilities to support the safety officer, which was not seen in the movie. Second, OSH, Use and Standards of Exposure of Chemicals Hazardous to Health, Regulations 2000. Regulation 22 and 23, basically, employees exposed to harm must be informed and trained so that they know the risk and they accept the risk. And that is all from me. Thank you very much.
So accident 1 that actually happened in this movie is where the worker Rakesh died due to cyanide poisoning. So during this scene, the worker Rakesh was doing a maintenance at his area. But however, there is another section in the factory where the untrained employee did not follow the proper SOP and has caused the pressure build up in the process, which led to leakage of MIC on Rakesh's area of supervision. So Rakesh tried to solve this problem. However, when he tried to put on his PPE, the protective personnel equipment was not in a very good condition. It was torn and unusable, so he just used the glove and fixed the problem. However, there was one drop of acidic MIC that leaked out from the valve, so this drop has been contacted at Rakesh's skin, and this causes Rakesh to feel a burning sensation. So what Rakesh did was he went to the nearest emergency shower to flush it out. However, the emergency shower was not functioning properly, and the composition of the emergency shower was only water. However, it is stated in the movie that when water is mixed with MIC, cyanide is produced. So that is the main cause of Rakesh's death. So the cause is PPE was not functional, the emergency shower was not functioning properly, and the valve opening was not protected even though highly toxic chemical is present. So the consequence is Rakesh died, and it impacted on the company reputation in safety and health. So the prevention method should be that all PPEs on the site should be fully functional and maintained, and they should implement a buddy system where Rakesh did not work alone but work with another partner. So if anything happened to Rakesh, the other partner should know what to do on that emergency. So the regulation that this accident covers is that OSHA, Use and Standard of Exposure of Chemical Hazardous to Health, Regulation 2000, where in Regulation 16 that the use of approved PPE should be provided to the employee, and this PPE should be suitable to the type of work in which they are employed and be in sufficient supply and readily available to employees who require it. And this is not the case in this scene because the PPE is not readily available, it's not in good condition. Next is the OSHA Classification, Labeling and Safety Data Sheet of Hazardous Chemical, Regulation 2013. In Regulation 13, there is a duty to furnish safety data sheet. There was no safety data sheet on the scene. where there should be included in the safety data sheet is the first aid measures, the accidental release measures, the exposure control and personal protection, and also the toxicological information, so that Rakesh could know what to do in case that his skin was in contact with MIC. However, the data sheet was not there and he died. Next is the incident 3, where the poor condition of instrument was applied. So in this scene, the safety officer notified the plant manager that there are malfunctioning gauges in the plant. So the manager told the safety officer that he will repair it at a later time. So in this scene, we could see that no proper maintenance was done on the equipment and instruments, and also there is unspecific working scope, where the manager is seen doing maintenance on the equipment while running the plant. So the consequences is there is a difficulty in controlling operating parameters of processes and equipment, and also there is a work overload on the plant manager, which led to further unwise decision due to probably fatigue and overload. So the prevention method should be the plant management should always prioritize maintenance for smooth operation, and there should be a specific job scope provided to the workers to avoid unfinished tasks and negligence, and they should hire qualified and trained workers to handle specific tasks, handling all of them. Next, we go to incident 3. So in incident 3, the regulation that covers this scene is OSHA Regulation 2000, the use and standard of exposure of chemical hazardous to health, where in Regulation 17, engineering control equipment, that any engineering control equipment should be inspected at appropriate intervals by the employer, and it should be examined and tested for its effectiveness by a technician also at appropriate intervals. Every engineering control equipment shall be maintained and operated at all time while any machinery or plant is in operation. And also in Regulation 19, the record of engineering control equipment, where any design or construction, testing, inspection, examination and maintenance of engineering control equipment should be recorded. Next, we go to incident 4, where the emergency equipment was shut down. So in this scene, the plant manager shut down the air conditioning system to reduce the consumption of electricity. Now note that the safety officer have warned the plant manager that if this air conditioning is shut down, this could potentially lead to a future disaster, because MIC needs to be stored under 0 degrees Celsius, but the plant manager ignored the warning. So the cause is because to reduce the usage of electricity, to save company's budget, and also the plant manager is quite incompetent. So the consequences is there is a high risk of explosion, and also if there is any failure in the emergency system during emergency, there will be riots and instability among workers. So the prevention method should be the emergency safety system should be maintained and inspected regularly. The manager or the employee should be cooperative and aware with the plant. The regulation involved in this incident is OSHA Regulation 1996, the control of industrial major accident hazards. In Regulation 8 stated that any changes in the system should be notified to the Director General, whether it is to increase the production or to the reduction of maximum quantity of hazardous substances. However, this was not done. Also in Regulation 19, the company should update the on-site emergency plan, where the manufacturer has prepared an on-site emergency plan in case if anything happened, but the plant manager also did not do this. Next, we go to incident 5, where the Union Carbide decided to implement new fundamental structure changes on MIC tank. So the idea was to combine all the 3 tanks that contain MIC together using a bypass line or a jumper line. So this could cause a tremendous effect in case the MIC will mix with water, which ultimately happened at the ending of the story. So the equipment changes were done unethically by bribing the local authorities. So the cause is they wanted to do these changes is because they were pressured to increase the production, and the demand struggled to make any kind of profit, and also the unwise decision with no regards to safety. So the consequences is these separate tanks became a one tank. So when it was contaminated with water, all the 3 tanks are contaminated. It is a widespread effect. So this means that another line of defense has been removed and putting everyone in the proximity in more danger. So the prevention method should be a proper contingency plan should be revised after the structural change, and they should notify and seek help from the Department of Safety and Health and also the safety officer. In this scene, the safety officer was not aware of the structural change. So the regulation that is covered in this incident is OSHA Regulation 1996, Control of Industrial Major Accident Hazards. In Regulation 15, modification, where a manufacturer shall not make any modification to the industrial activity to which the report relates, which can materially affect the particular. So if any changes that can affect the production, it should be notified to the competent person and the Director General. And also the regulation that covers is the OSHA Regulation 2000, use and standards of exposure of chemical hazardous to health. In Regulation 7, where 8-hour work time weighted average should be applied in the company. In this company, Union Carbide, they do not apply the 3-shift 8-hour system. They applied a 2-shift 12-hour. So every worker has to work 12 hours a day. And in this regulation states that an employer shall ensure that the exposure of any person to any chemical hazardous to health listed in Schedule 1, any 8-hour work shift of work week does not exceed the 8-hour time weighted average. And this shows that this company has already broken this regulation or avoided the regulation.
Accident 2. MIC tank mixed with water due to improper maintenance. A pipeline wash operation were carried out on the night where the factory should be closed. During the maintenance, a worker accidentally connected the hosepipe into the pipeline without inserting a slip disc between the pipeline. The slip discs are meant to stop the water from contacting the MIC tank. The reason why MIC could not be exposed to moisture is because of the risk of an exothermic reaction that might trigger an explosion. In my perspective, the main causes of the accidents are mainly because of lack of skilled operator in handling the operation. In fact, there are no proper training was given to them. As mentioned before, during the maintenance, a slip disc that's supposed to stop water from contacting the MIC tank was not inserted into the pipeline. The situation became worse when the MIC that were already stored are beyond recommended levels, as the factory have made structural changes on the tank as mentioned earlier. As the consequences, the disaster of gas leakage happened as a result of an exothermic reaction between water and MIC. Temperature and pressure inside of MIC tank rapidly increases, and the MIC tank might burst due to overheated. As a prevention action, strict regulations and method must be done according to the manual to prevent such accident. Supervisor should be present during the maintenance operation to observe and control the situation. Some regulation that related to accident 2 can be found on the Regulations 1996 Part 4, where the Regulation 18 on-site emergency plan highlighted a manufacturer who has control of an industrial activity must prepare and keep an up-to-date and adequate on-site emergency plans. While the Regulation 21 of Site Emergency Plans urge a manufacturer who has control of an industrial activity shall inform the local authority that his industrial activity is considered capable of producing a major accident hazard. The following accident, poisonous gas leakage through the atmosphere, are resulted from the accident 2. When the MIC tank was overheated, several pressure and temperature gauges were damaged, giving an indication of intense reaction had taken in place. So there is a scene in the movie showed that the worker tried to spray water onto the vent gas scrubber structure to reduce the amount of gases being vented to the atmosphere. However, the water spray could not reach the height of the leak due to the lack of water pressure. So water was sprayed to the storage tanks as initiative, but still not working. This accident is due to the failure of several safety systems. As Abu had mentioned before, the emergency safety system was shut down for the sake of saving costs. These are the token to the failure of operational safety system in the plant. Besides, in the movie also showed that the worker failed to activate the safety system available in the plant, so they attempted to douse the leaking gas with water spray only. So this is a proof of inadequate emergency action plans has been done. And not to forget, there is a lack of coordination between factory and emergency services. For example, the safety officer, Roy, called the emergency staff line to give a warning regarding the current situation, but he was only getting it not in return. As consequences, the 40 tons of MIC gas released into the atmosphere. There was no warning or guidance to the local due to faulty alarm system, so the local are being alerted manually by a journalist, Motwani. And thousands of people living around the plants were awakened with suffocating, enduring burning eyes, cough and vomiting as an effect of the spreading gas. The prevention that could be taken, companies should establish a regular or proper maintenance and servicing of the safety system, pressure valve and etc. Plant should have at least 4-stage backup system online, and a 24-hour response team should be established in the plant so that such accident can be handled quickly. From the Regulation 1996 Part 4, which is the Regulation 23 Notifications of Major Accident, if a major accident occurs on a site, a manufacturer shall notify the nearest Occupational Safety and Health Office. And Part 5, Regulation 22 Information to the Public, highlighted that it shall be the duty of a manufacturer who has control of an industrial activity to ensure that persons outside the site are supplied in appropriate manner of information. The next incident showed that the locals started feeling the effects of toxic gas leakage. Soon, the local hospitals are overwhelmed with the injured people who are living surrounding the plant. However, a crisis further compounded when the medical fraternity did not have the requisites on how to deal with such kind of contaminations. They faced the lack of knowledge of exactly what gas was involved and what its effects were. So the main causes are because of the plants are located very close to a densely populated area, thus thousands of people being affected. Soon, medical staff were unprepared for that thousands of casualties. Even the doctors and hospitals were not informed of proper treatment methods in dealing with the MIC gas inhalation. As a result, in the movie showed that the local doctor only took a lucky guess for the antidote since he could not reach the union carbide. As the consequences, the death toll rises, where the streets of Bhopal were littered with human corpses and the carcasses of buffaloes, cows, dogs and birds within an hour. Meanwhile, the survivors have permanent fatality injuries and the healthcare system tremendously overloaded. The prevention action could be taken is that the local hospital and pharmacy should be provided with the antidote and enough medical supplies. And of course, the local community must be exposed and given awareness of any potential risk that could be happen so that they are eligible to handle such accident. The relatable regulations for incidences can be found in the Regulation 2013, Part 2, Number 5, which is the record of classification. It is stated that a principal supplier shall record the classifications of chemicals as hazardous chemicals. If commits an offence, the offender are liable to a fine not exceeding 10,000 ringgit or being imprisoned for a term not exceeding 1 year or to both.
Several lessons can be gained from this movie. I'm Harith bin Aimiros. We conclude our movie review for Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain. As a conclusion, incompetency and human error in this movie play a crucial part that lead to a domino effect and taken into full effect, leading to a full-scale disaster in the city of Bhopal. Next, human lives are priceless. In this movie, you can see a small investment for safety is ignored by the people in charge for small profit. Show us the consequences suffered by the people of Bhopal. I hope we can take this lesson and apply in our everyday life so that a full-scale disaster can be avoided. Thank you for your attention, and this is our movie review for Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain. Thank you so much.